Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of our podcast. This is Vince Reese with Plum Creek Funding, and I'm Brent Hilvitz with Redesign Realty, and we're talking about all kinds of things, mostly real estate and lending related, but other things I'm sure will pop into our conversations as we get along with this thing. So, welcome. Vince, we're going to talk about, today we wanted to talk a little bit about the recent lawsuit with NAR and some of the other big companies.
Yeah, what is NAR exactly?
So NAR is the National Association of Realtors. So basically they're a lobbying group and I don't know what the association of it is. They're a group that a bunch of real estate professionals belong to. And in some places you're required to belong to the National Association of Realtors to be able to use the MLS in that area. So this is a little bit what this lawsuit's about. It's not necessarily about that, but it's about how NAR squeezes its members to comply with what they want, right?
So is it like a big union then?
Yeah, it's kind of like a union.
Where you pay your dues and
yeah,
they lobby and do all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a union except without Jimmy Hoffa.
All right, no Jimmy Hoffa.
No Jimmy Hoffa. All right, so this big lawsuit, $1.8 billion against NAR, and some of the other big companies are involved in lawsuits as well. There are more lawsuits coming.
Oh,
so, wow. Yeah, I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think that we're going to see more lawsuits coming. The Department of Justice is getting involved. And it's really about, in my opinion, it's about fair pricing for consumers and transparency.
Okay. So would you relate this to like the mortgage change that we went through in the early 2000s, 2007s, 2008s, where we just had to be more transparent with fees? Or do you think it's going to go deeper than that?
You know, I don't know. $1.8 billion is a bunch of money, so I'm not sure how the National Association of Realtors is going to fare or if they're going to survive this, because right now they're appealing the verdict, but I don't think they have grounds to appeal the actual verdict. It's just going to be the amount of the damages that they're appealing. And this is going to go on for years. I think we're going to spend years and years talking about this. We'll probably see lots of states get out in front of it. Colorado is one of those states that has been out in front of it. When in our contracts, it's stated pretty clearly that this is a percentage that is going to go towards the buyer's commission.
Okay.
Right? So it's pretty clear to the sellers. Now, I don't know if it's as clear to the buyers. That will probably change. So we'll probably see something in the buyer's contract. And we're already seeing now on Zillow, if you look on Zillow, it will tell you what the buyer's commission is. So again, trying to be more transparent. But I think that's really, the main crux of it. Now the question is, how is it going to affect clients?
So affecting the clients, there's a couple different ways it can go.
Mm-hmm.
One is that buyers have to pay the extra commission.
That's a possibility.
There's been talk about possibly rolling it into the loan amount, which I don't see that happening. And the third is it stays status quo and the seller still pays that commission. It's just more disclosed.
I think that's right. I think that you've got those same things. And I think that, the disclosure is probably the most likely way that this is all going to shake out. It'll just be more transparent, which is a good thing for everybody. Possibilities of buyers having to pay their buyer's agent. There's a lot of things that get kind of involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is this really limits first-time buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As you know, a lot of first-time buyers don't have a lot of extra cash.
And that's absolutely 100% correct. That's why I don't think it'll go that way. I mean, anything can happen in this world. We know that.
Yeah, but I think that, I think it's going to hurt the first-time buyers and limit it, which in turn is going to hurt the sellers.
Correct.
Because if buyers can't qualify, then there's fewer buyers for the same amount of houses, supply and demand. So, it could affect how much sellers get on the back end.
So let's spin the table a little bit.
Okay.
So by this if this legislation goes through, okay, what's the biggest impact it could have on today's real estate market?
Man, I mean, it depends on what the legislation is. But say that the legislation is that buyers have to pay their own fees and they can't wrap it into the loan. So number one, right off the bat, home prices are going to drop 3%. Right? We're going to assume that the average commission is 6%. So half of that's shared with the buyer, half of that's shared with the listing agent. So right off the top, the published sale price is going to go down 3%.
Maybe,
but well, I mean, it's going to be, it's going to get paid one way or the other. That's the thing, right? It's kind of like.
So you don't think the listing agents are going to all of a sudden, instead of making their standard 3%, oh, since I have to do both sides, my commission now is 4.5% and 5%.
I don't think so, because I don't think they're going to end up doing both sides. I mean, that's really a dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
Right? Buyers need an advocate, right? In some states, there's something called dual agency. It's not here in Colorado, but in some states, there's dual agency where a real estate agent can represent both the buyers and the sellers, which seems kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, how can you be a master to two people, right? When I'm your agent, I'm 100% on your side, right? I am fighting for you every inch of the way. So if that goes away, who's fighting for the buyer?
That's just it. Nobody is.
Right. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think buyers are going to let that happen. We're talking about, $500,000, $1 million in purchase. Do you really want to have the guy that represents the seller be in charge of representing you as well when you're spending that kind of money?
No, that's the issue.
That's the whole problem, right?
So that is the issue, because when you have, it's kind of like this. I'm going through divorce. Okay, my spouse. I'm not going through a divorce, but my soon-to-be ex-spouse hires her attorney. Is her attorney going to be looking out for my best interest, or is that attorney going to only be looking out for her best interest?
Right. Well, as someone who has been through one, right? For you.
Yes, I have.
Right. So I have not. So did you have your own attorney?
Yes.
Of course. Right? That's like going into a lawsuit. What do they say? Any client who represents himself has a fool for a client. Something like that, right? Yeah. Nobody wants to represent, you're an idiot if you represent yourself. You're more of an idiot if you let the opposing side represent you.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think that would be a good result. I just think that it's a tough situation, and I understand where sellers are coming from. They're like, why do we pay this? Okay, so don't pay it and then drop your price 3%. What's the difference? It's really down to, this is the cost of things. There's just not, I don't see a way around that or a way for that changing, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't personally see a lot of change, but the most important thing is that everybody as a consumer is educated on it. They know what's going on. And if they have questions, they can either call you or me.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing, is this is just going to unravel over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and it'll change. And so as you have questions about it, I think it makes sense for clients to, call your real estate professional. Give me a call. I'll walk you through what I know and what's happening now. Things are going to change. What that really means, I don't know. We're already in a slowdown in the real estate industry now because the cost of building is, higher. There's more, the rates are higher, right? They're significantly higher than they were 2 years ago, which locks a lot of people into that, I don't want to sell because I don't want to lose my rate. Right? Do you have people that are in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. Every day.
Yeah. So
they can't afford to upgrade. And that's a whole nother situation that we can get into at a later date.
Okay. But, all right, so let's just say that, you know, people are not as many people are going to be listing their house because upgrading with a higher interest rate really gets expensive or makes it, you know, difficult unless you know, there's some there's some tips and tricks to getting around that, right?
Yes.
So
what I'm seeing is a lot of those people holding on to their house, keeping that as a rental because the rate's so low, and then purchasing another home.
So, which shrinks the supply of homes that are available.
Yep.
Okay. So it shrinks the supply of homes that are available, and the other side of it is it makes it harder for people to break into that market. I mean, unfortunately, this is kind of one of the things of the rich get richer.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and that's, you know, as we talk about this, I think that's the people who are really going to get, you know, hit with this. It's going to be the people on the lower end of the economic scale. You know, it's just, you know, people that can afford, right? If you already own a home, you've got equity, you can afford to pay your buyer's agent. Yeah, that seems fine. But what about people who don't own a home, who don't have that equity, who don't have that extra cash, right? Coming up with a down payment of 3% kind of on the minimum side, 20% on the ideal side, that's a chunk of money to come up with, especially when you don't have anything like a home that's been increasing in value, right? So it really puts pressure on that. I think that's going to be something that's really difficult that they're going to have to struggle with to find out how are we going to survive with that.
I agree.
So really, and then on top of that, we have a bunch of hedge funds that are buying just rows and rows of houses. You know, Blackstone is buying, you know, 100 houses a day. So they're taking things off the market. They're buying them and making them rentals, and those are never going to come back.
Okay, let's write down these topics.
Okay.
And bring them to our next cast.
Okay, sounds good. There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about. But for the lawsuit that's going on, if you have questions, best to, you know, contact somebody who knows what's going on and ask questions. There are no bad questions, right? There are no stupid
Absolutely.
questions. That's the one thing about real estate. There are no stupid questions, right? They're just information and how to get that information the best way. And the easiest way to do that is to call Vince or to call me.
Call Brett.
And I'm sure that somewhere you'll find our information on this, you know, attached to this podcast.
As long as your daughter can figure out how to do it.
Yeah, Parker, you're on top of this. So Parker's our saving grace. But all right, well, I think that's good. I think we've got some good information out there. We're going to kind of wait and see what happens. And if you have questions, or if you happen to be an expert in this field and you want to join us for a chat, let me know. Just contact us and we'll get you down here.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.